Hello and welcome back to the iGP Manager AOR League. This week it's round 5 of this first season and we're in Spain, where I can already tell you it is raining, and raining hard. My name is Justin, and joining me once again it's Alex Gillon.
Yes, hello everyone. As Justin said, it is raining, so hopefully this will be a really exciting race. Hoping for some mix-up strategies and some close racing.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. Our championship leader is starting very far down. In fact, let's go ahead and remind ourselves of the championship standings as it looks right now. Nicholas Morales currently leads the way with 69 points, 14 points ahead of Peter Mann in second position. Nicholas Navarro, aka Cesar Navarro, as we tend to call him, because there's so many Nicholases in this league, in third position with 48 points. So it has extended a little bit up at the front. The leading pair of Morales and Mann have kind of separated themselves even further compared to the last round after finishing 1-2 last time out in Bahrain. But it has tightened up quite a bit in the midfield from 4th down to 11th. It's just 18 points separating them. So it is very tight in the midfield still. So let's go ahead and remove those standings and let's take a quick look. You guys can see where everybody is starting. So as I mentioned, our championship leader, Nicholas Morales, way down in 13th position, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. So that should certainly spice up the championship a little bit. Of course, he is on the Inter tyres, so 4.5 seconds off pole though because of the Inter tyres. So clearly, it is very much wet weather tyres. We've got 3.8 millimetres of water, which is very much wet weather tyres territory. It is still raining, so it's not going to dry up anytime soon. And it is only 9 degrees Celsius, so that also means it won't dry very quickly if indeed it does ever stop raining. Autosport, of course, starting on the super softs as well, which is an interesting strategy. That might be great. Not expecting that to be too fruitful, but let's hopefully they hit on the very first lap, so at least they can have some decent things after that.
Yeah, they may have missed the cutoff time possibly for qualifying, because of course you do start the race on the tires that you qualified on. And I imagine those who started on the intermediate tires probably had to do their qualifying rather early compared to the rest of the grid. And at the time, it was probably Inter's conditions. So that's the tires that they ran for qualifying. But the top 11 are all on the full wets, and it is very much full wet conditions. As Alex said, 3.8 millimeters of water, and again, very cool out there as well, 9 degrees Celsius. So again, even if it does stop raining, it is going to take a long time for it to dry out. It looks like we are rapidly approaching the race start now, so I'll go ahead and take off the music nice and early this week as we prepare to go racing in Spain. But it is Nicholas Carrasco who actually currently is on pole position with Chandler Saita alongside him. Simon Fazzolari, excuse me, who finished in 3rd position in Spain, 5th position in Bahrain. He'll be starting from the 3rd position of the grid alongside Peter Mann, who's currently 2nd in the standings. So again, with Morales way down in 13th, this is a big opportunity for everybody, but Peter Mann mainly, because again, it's a small gap between himself. I believe it was 14 points between himself and Nicholas Morales. So if he gets 3rd and Morales fails to score any points today, then that would mean that he is the new leader, unless somebody else wins the race. But we are away in Spain, and again, the rain is falling hard, so these full wets are definitely going to be the optimal tires. We are going to see the intermediate runners drop well down the order, I would expect, as well as Autosport on those super soft tires as well. But opening lap, and it looks like Fazzolari's already managed to get past Saita, as has Peter Mann, so it's not been a great start for Saita. Cesar Navarro as well, who likes to do those 3 stops, as we know, losing some positions down into 7th now.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said there, Dustin, we're expecting them to run us to 4th back a little bit, including our championship leader Nicholas Morales, which they are indeed already doing. So there's already a 1 second gap after the first sector alone. Sorry, that's after the second sector. So looking like they're probably going to be several seconds per lap closer. But as you say, they're shuffling around a little bit at the top. Our highest championship contender at the moment is Peter Mann. So just keeping a close eye on him. And it is Nicholas Navarro who is the person behind him in the championship. So he is, where is he?
6th. He's Cesar.
6th, there we go. So our championship contenders are way down a little bit.
Make that 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. So already got some overtakes going on here, and Barcelona is normally easy to overtake on iGP, but when you've got DRS, of course, as in real life, there is no DRS when it's raining. So this should be an interesting race. I'm not sure how much overtaking there will be. I don't know if you've got much experience in the wet at Barcelona, Justin, but yeah, this could be a tasty one.
Yeah, no DRS, of course, but again, the DRS isn't hugely powerful for these guys because everybody started at level 1 when they when this league began. So But it does look like Carrasco is breaking away a little bit. He could be on for a different strategy. The wets hold in pretty well. They're not going to wear down as quickly as the softs, for example. So they should easily be able to make this a two-stop. It's two-stop if it stays these sort of conditions. As they make their way out of the final corner to start lap 3. Again, no DRS due to the conditions in this race, but Peter Mann in 4th position, Saita in 6th. As I mentioned, Insaurralde getting ahead of Cesar Navarro, moving up into 6th position. Navarro dropping down into 7th, and he's actually coming under pressure from Nicholas Coleman, as Cabanes has actually made an overtake on Fazzolari. Cabanes, if I remember correctly, started outside the top 5, so he's had an absolutely blinding start. No DRS, as I mentioned. However, boost is activated now that we're here on lap 3, and Cabanes has used a little bit, but that's moved him up into 2nd position in that pink car, and I imagine he's going to be happy about that. Again, we don't know the fuel levels, but I imagine there might be some people that try the 1-stop. I'd say the 2-stop is probably more likely, but we might even see some 3-stops potentially. Interestingly, the intermediate runners all stayed out, Alex, except for Jose Luis Navarro, the older of the 2 Navarro brothers. He's come out on the full wets down in 15th position, but coming up on Autosport pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that's got to be the right decision. The leaders are doing a 24.8 last lap, and the leading into runners doing a 29.5. That's almost 5 seconds per lap slower. So only within sort of 4 laps you recover your entire pit stop time, as indeed we are now seeing with Jose Luis there. Closing in Autosport, as you said, unfortunately, are still out on the super soft tyres. So not even sure if they're attending this race. I don't know if they're in the chat or not, but they're definitely the wrong choice there. They need to be in for, at the very least, inters, but obviously I don't need wets. Little update on the weather as well. I've just checked Dark Sky, which is the service that iGP uses to get the real life weather. So this is actual weather in Barcelona that iGP uses. And I believe it's just stopped raining. I think there's about a 15-minute delay once it gets into the iGP game. So I potentially could see this race start towards the end of the race. So that's the forecast at the moment, Justin.
Yeah, and Saita moving past Mann, a bit of boost usage out of the final corner on the rundown towards turn 1 sees him up into 4th position. A bit of a gap beginning to form between the top 3, I would say. Cabanes is slowly closing in on Carrasco, 0.2 quicker last lap compared to the Spaniard ahead of him, who is, of course, leading his home race. This is the home race for, I believe it's Carrasco and Insaurralde, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Saita moving ahead of Peter Mann, as did Insaurralde, actually. Peter Mann dropping a couple of positions this lap. He hasn't used any boost, though, so that is why I would say he's probably losing those positions. But clearly, Saita and Insaurralde feeling like they are quicker than Peter Mann, at least at this stage. And again, Peter Mann could be on for a different strategy. He could be attempting a 1-stop potentially. I have a feeling it is going to be mostly wet weather conditions. Surely the first half of the race, anyway, is going to be the optimal tires are going to be the wet weather tires. I did miss the overtake by Coleman on Cesar Navarro, so he's dropped down another position. Daniel Thomas, one of the leading drivers earlier on in this season, kind of bringing up the rear of this train of sort of 9 cars. And then he's got about a 2.4-second gap down to Nicholas Pressey, who is holding on to that final points-paying position ahead of Jake Thompson. So that's how things are looking at the moment. Let's just have a quick look a little bit further up the field. Peter Mann dropping back from Insaurralde and Saita after they made their overtakes. So maybe he is on that 1-stop strategy. Maybe he is a little bit over-fueled compared to them. We already saw Coleman make 1 overtake on Cesar Navarro. Is he going to be looking to make another here on Peter Mann, I wonder?
Yeah, could well be. Looking pretty close. But just to give a quick update as well, for those that don't know, if you look in the top right-hand corner, you can see that the raindrops are falling out of the cloud, which means it is still raining. You can, of course, see the visuals on the screen of the raindrops falling as well. So keep an eye on that, and that will let us know when it stops raining. And of course, next to that is the 3.8 millimeters that me and Justin have been referring to. And Justin, as you mentioned as well, I think a lot of these guys will be on 1-stop. I'll be surprised if anyone's on a 2. In iGP, the wet weather tyres do last a very long time, so you can almost always do a 1-stop. In fact, I had a wet weather race just the other day at a 100% race. I did a 2-stop on that. That was a 100% race. So these guys only on a 50% race. So I'd imagine they'll be doing a 1-stop.
Yep, I would say so. At least the vast majority of them anyway. And yeah, just a quick correction. The Spanish drivers are actually Cabanes and Carrasco, so I apologize for that. But They are currently 1-2 in this race, so I imagine that's pretty good for them. The Spanish fans looking on, I'm sure, are very happy about that one. And they are looking rather comfortable. Really, there hasn't been a lot of action in the top three. We saw Saita move himself up into 4th position, Insaurralde as well, who is Argentinian, not Spanish, up into 5th position. And Peter Mann is really starting to drop back. A significant gap of about 2 seconds now starting to form as Nicholas Coleman really flying up to the back of Peter Mann. So I think that overtake is likely to happen. But Insaurralde setting fastest lap last time, actually, with a 1:23.3. And that's quite a bit quicker than all of the cars behind him, who are kind of lapping in the 1:24s. So, yeah, like I said, the top 5 kind of separating themselves. They definitely seem to be the quicker ones. Maybe they're just going for a slightly shorter first stint. Since the wet weather tires can do such a long distance, you know, they don't necessarily need to split it right down the middle. So it's tough to predict, though, in these conditions, especially for someone like myself who doesn't play every single day. A lot of these guys, specifically the Argentinian guys, I know are very, very active in iGP Manager, so they know all of the best strategies. And looking at the front, very similar sort of gaps that we're seeing. Again, no DRS, obviously, in these conditions. And we're not seeing a ton of boost usage. It really seems that this wet weather has just spread the field out compared to what we saw in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think potentially what we could be seeing here is just a convergence of strategies. I think looks like everyone might have figured out that a one-stop is the best way to go, whereas in the previous rounds we saw a whole host of different strategies, didn't we? Which, of course, always causes a more mixed-up race with different fuel levels. But as you said, they don't have to split it right down the middle in terms of when they stop. But we do actually have Cabanes there in the pits by the looks of it. So he's stopping a little bit earlier than the other guys. He was slightly lighter on fuel. So he was up in P2 just as he came into the pit lane there. So be interesting if the other guys start through now. That seems quite early, potentially not a one-stop for him. Looking like if you're on lap 10, that could be a 2-stop for him. So it'd be interesting if the other guys are indeed on a one-stop, because he was quite similar pace to the leader. So if the leader's got another, 5 or 6 laps in and was only managing or was somehow managing the same pace as Cabanes there, that'd be pretty impressive. So yeah, what do you think about that one, Justin?
Well, actually, I'm focused on Jake Thompson, because he really did not want to get stuck behind Cabanes there, and I think that was actually the right call from the Brit there, because, of course, Cabanes just coming out. He isn't going to have faster tires because, as you said, the wet weather tires last for a very long time, so he's coming out basically heavy with fuel, possibly going to go to the end, or at the very least, he's going to be going until about lap 21, something around there. So clearly Jake Thompson really not wanting to get caught behind a car that's fat with fuel there, deploying a lot of his boost, actually. He's down to about a third of his boost or so. But I have to say, after he made that overtake, he really has not pulled away from Cabanes, so I don't know if that's down to setup. Maybe Cabanes just has the better setup of the two. But clearly he was light with fuel at the beginning of the race, and that was definitely flattering his pace. And I wonder if Carrasco is in a similar situation. Are we going to see him come into the pits here at the end of lap 11? I know that's a very common strategy. We actually, not that long ago, just last week, I believe, we asked our Facebook followers what strategy they would use, for example, for a dry 50% distance race around Spain. And a lot of people saying they just do soft, soft, soft with an 11-lap stint for each of those soft stints. So maybe we're seeing something like that as Saita does come into the pits, as does Fazzolari as well. So Simone Fazzolari, Chandler Saita peeling off into the pits. Insaurralde is going to continue on for another lap, as does Peter Mann, Nicholas Coleman, Cesar Navarro. So the vast majority of the drivers are staying out for another lap, but it is Fazzolari and Saita in at the end of lap 11.
Yeah, interesting. So a lot of them pitting actually before halfway, so potentially could be going for 2 stops. Either that or they're fuel quite heavy now till the end. Of course, just to follow up on what I said before, that they don't have to pit in the middle of the race even if they are on a 1-stop. Of course, there is a benefit to fueling longer in that if the weather does change, you've got more chance to change the strategy.
Yep.
But of course, the flip side of that is you're a lot heavier, which is clearly what these guys have opted for, much lighter car. And I have to say, Nicholas Carrasco is doing a great job. You know, he seems to be heavier than most of the guys that are behind him, with the exception of Peter Mann on fuel, and looks like he does now come into the pits. But he was pulling away there at the beginning, Justin, despite having more fuel. So really, really good job from him. You know, and just to reiterate what we said on previous streams, that you do get the overcut on iGP because it's a refueling game. So in theory, they should be faster the later they stay out. So And there we go, confirmation of that. He is going to be the leader of the guys that are pitted, and still the top 4 are yet to stay out. So I wonder then if Nicholas Carrasco is going to be on a 1 or a 2 stop. He's sort of a bit twixt in between, really. He could stretch this out now to the end. Be interesting to see his pace, see if he's got heavy fuel, or he could come in again. It's been an interesting one to see.
Yeah, he did come out in 5th position, though, which is really, really impressive. He's only got 4 cars ahead of him. Daniel Thomas is about 2.8 seconds up the road, so he's really not getting held up any dirty air effect or anything like that. So, yeah, I have to say Carrasco is looking fantastic, especially when you compare him to Cabanes. Let's take a look at the gap to the leader. Carrasco is 8.6. Cabanes is now 15.6, so he's lost 7 seconds. I mean, they were running nose to stern. I mean, very, very close to one another. So that is a surprising one. And that makes me wonder if Cabanes is now heavy with fuel, if he is going to try and go to the end as Nicholas Coleman, peels off into the pits. And he's going to drop well down the order. It looks like he's going to come out just behind Jake Thompson, but still ahead of Jose Luis Navarro, who is sort of bringing himself back into this. However, he is, of course, probably going to have to stop again, because he made that stop for the wet weather tires at the end of lap 1. So effectively, he's still on his first stint, but he has sort of closed up to the back of the field. And I imagine he is going to be one that goes for the one-stop strategy effectively. So I imagine it will be seeing him come into the pits probably within the next 3 or 4 laps, something like that. And then probably go to the end on another set of full wets. It is still raining out there. As you said, it is starting to dry up in Spain, but there is that delay between the weather as it happens in Spain and as it happens in iGP Manager. So we're already approaching halfway distance, though. And, I mean, even if it were to stop raining this exact moment with, 3.8 millimeters on track and only 9 degrees Celsius, I have a feeling it's going to be wet weather conditions till the end anyway.
I think you may well be right there, Justin. I think even if it's stopped now, it might go to Inters maybe towards the end, but it might well not be worth them pitting again. And going back to the strategy then, it looks like Peter Mann is doing a great job. So he will almost certainly only stop once, as you said. We're just approaching halfway point now. But if you just take a look at the lap times there, you can see the difference between the overcut, as I mentioned before. Peter Mann last lap was a 22.8, and I'm not sure if we can look at Nicholas Carrasco. I think this might be only his first flying lap. So if we look down to Fazolari Simone, I think that's how you say it, 23.8. So it's about a second a lap difference. It's a big, big difference if you can stretch it out. We've got Peter Mann coming into the pits there, so I wonder if the rest of the guys are coming. No, it is just Peter Mann that's going to come in this lap, and looks like the 2 guys behind him potentially come in next lap. And just to give a little update as well on the championship, don't forget our current leader in the championship is actually Nicolas Morales, who's way down in P14, so still in the intermediate tyres. Clearly the wrong strategy today, so it's looking like that he will score no points today, which will certainly liven up the championship. And as you mentioned, Peter Mann is the next man in the championship, only 14 points back from him. So if he can get somewhere near a podium, he will be leading the championship after this race, Justin.
Yeah, very surprising. Daniel Thomas, by the way, making the overtake on Cesar Navarro, using lots of boost to close up to the back of him on the run down towards turn 1, and then deploying some more boost in sector 1 in order to make that overtake as they come up to the championship leader to lap him. And now Cesar Navarro is actually going to deploy some boost, as well as Felix Cabanes makes his way past Peter Mann on the run down towards that turn 10 hairpin. So a couple of changes of position here on this lap as Navarro has regained the lead. Daniel Thomas enters the pits at the end of lap 16, so he'll have to go for a 17-lap stint. It means the only drivers yet to stop so far in this race are now Cesar Navarro, Nicholas Pressey as well, still running around on his first stint, and Jake Thompson as well still has yet to come into the pits. And indeed, Daniel Thomas comes out ahead of Jake Thompson, so he won't have to worry too much about clean air or traffic ahead of him. But Jake Thompson, again, really wanting to avoid cars fat with fuel coming out of the pits ahead of him. He's going to deploy some boost to move himself up into 9th position, and possibly coming into the pits at the end of lap 17 here, as we're about 1 lap away from half distance. So after lap 17, halfway through the track is the halfway point of this race. And will we see Cesar Navarro come into the pits at the end of this lap? Yes, we do. And that is going to be presumably for his one and only stop. So he'll probably be doing an 18-lap stint on his next set of tires, as Nicholas Carrasco regains the lead of the race. Doesn't pick up any sort of DRS, of course, off of the back marker of Morales due to the conditions, but does use a bit of boost to make his way past as quickly as he can. Nicholas Pressey, less than 2 seconds adrift of Carrasco, but again, he's due for a stop, so I don't think Pressey is really going to be involved in the battle for the podium positions.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, already a whole pit stop behind, so not looking good for him. I think the pit lane time is around 20 seconds or so, as we see Autosport coming into the pits towards the back of the field there. They did switch to wet tyres, presumably going to go for another set of the wets, but I think just starting on those super soft tyres, they just lost too much time to be contention today, unfortunately. But back to the front, as you say, Nicholas Carrasco out in the lead at the moment. Looking at his laps, I'm just trying to compare to Peter Mann, just to see, because we're pretty certain Peter Mann will now go to the end. Nicholas Carrasco looks considerably quicker, so I think pretty much everyone who pitted before lap sort of 14 or so is going to be coming in again. So this could get very spicy, because they are going to be quite a bit faster than Peter Mann. So the current gap between Nicholas Carrasco in P1 and Peter Mann down in P7 is 9.4
battle for fourth.
I'll let you carry on there, Justin.
Yeah, that was a surprising one. I was following the field kind of as you were talking about it, and just caught Inceralde and Saita going for a battle for fourth position. It looks like Saita now going to deploy a bit more boost on the run up to turn 9. Inceralde is going to deploy the rest of his boost to move back ahead, but Saita still with about 50% remaining. Surely he's going to utilize that coming out of the final corner or thereabouts and retake that position. But that was a surprising one. But going back to what you were saying about Autosport, sorry to cut you off with that battle, but going back to what you were saying about Autosport, if they were to finish in 13th position, which I think they are on for, that would be their best finish to date, though. So still positives to take away.
Oh, absolutely. Let's not be too harsh on them then. And again, a very clear mistake. It's not like this is their raw pace. It was a very clear mistake in starting on super soft tyres. So hopefully they can get it all together, be on a more normal strategy next race, and we can see what their true pace is. So I think we're being robbed of that so far. So yeah, just going back to what I was saying, Peter Mann. So he is, well, actually last lap he was quite a bit slow. I think Nicholas Carrasco must have used some boost there, because he did a very, very quick lap. But looking like Nicholas Carrasco, of course, hasn't pit yet. Fazzolari Simone is done a 22.7. Peter Mann's done a 23.8. So about a second a lap slower Peter Mann is. So let's see, when will they pit? They will probably pit lap sort of maybe 24, Justin, you'd say? Maybe 9 laps?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, it's clear that Carrasco was headed for a, as Pressey comes into the pits finally at the end of lap 20. So that's a very, very long stint for the American. But yeah, I think the people that might be, it's tough to tell if people switched to a one stop after initially, so like the likes of Carrasco, Fazzolari, Saita, Inceralde, Cabanes, all of them were initially fueled for what looked like a two stop going, somewhere between 9 to 12 laps. Then you have the likes of Peter Mann, Cesar Navarro, Nicholas Pressey, Jake Thompson, Jose Luis Navarro, going much, much longer on their stints, clearly on a one-stop strategy, as Coleman actually makes his way past Peter Mann coming out of turn 8, actually, on the run up the hill into turn 9. And Coleman has taken that position. And he's been on that set of tires for 7 laps now after doing a 13-lap stint. So I think it's very, very possible that some of these guys may have switched to a one-stop strategy after that rather early stop. Others may have just, decided, to screw it. Let's just go with the two-stop strategy that I originally planned on, as Cabanes moves his way ahead of Inceralde. So the two Spanish managers now into first and fourth position. So they're not the 1-2 that they had before. But I suspect, based on the gap between Carrasco and Cabanes, I think Cabanes may have switched to a one-stop, whereas Carrasco did not, potentially. And again, that gap that Carrasco has at the front makes me think he is still running a two-stop strategy.
I have to say, I do believe that everyone in front of Peter Mann is going to pit again. That's just purely looking at lap times there, Justin. So Peter Mann, let's not forget, is second in the championship. Clearly has got some pace. So we know pretty much for certain that he is now going to the end. So he is on the fuel level and the weight required to go to the end. So considering how much quicker they are on him, I'd be very, very surprised if any of them could go to the end. And there we do see Chandler Saita and Felix Cabanes, they're coming into the pits for presumably their final stop. And that Peter Mann is going to be far, far ahead of them. So yeah, this could get very spicy. Pretty certain that everyone ahead of Peter Mann will have to pit again. I think the people behind him potentially could have switched to a one-stop. Again, this is just purely looking at their pace. I'd imagine the wet tyres will pretty much last till the end. I imagine it can be 3/4 of the race on a set of wet tyres without too many issues. So, yeah, but there is already a 16-second gap between Nicholas Carrasco in P1 and Peter Mann in P5. So actually, if Nicholas Carrasco can stay out for another couple of laps, he may well come out ahead of Peter Mann. He's quite a bit faster at the moment. But Peterman looks like he's used all of his boosts as well, so he's going to have nothing to defend with. And Carrasco has got maybe a quarter of his boost. And he is indeed staying out for another lap. So if we can just stick with it for another couple of laps, he might have a great shot at the win here.
As Fazzolari now comes into the pit, so your predictions are becoming more and more correct as more and more drivers come in for their second stop, and it does look like it is going to be for another set of full wet weather tires. And as you mentioned before, that is kind of the gamble as far as when you stop, how much you fuel, because you don't know when the rain is going to stop. You don't know when the intermediates are suddenly going to become quickest, but the way this race has shaped out, it's been full wets the entire time, and it looks like it's going to be that way as we have just the 9 and a bit laps of racing still to go here in Spain. And at the moment, it is still Carrasco who leads the way by a significant margin, just continuing to extend that gap up at the front. It's now 8.4 seconds between himself and Franco Incerralde. Nicholas Coleman a further 6.5 seconds adrift. And then Peter Mann, who's currently second in the championship standings, in fourth. He is ahead of Cesar Navarro. Both of those guys completely drained of boost, no boost remaining. And indeed, Nicholas Carrasco and Franco Incerralde are both into the pits, as is Nicholas Coleman. So the top three all into the pits. And where is Carrasco going to feed out? It is just ahead of Peter Mann, and he's still got a little bit of boost, and he has fresher tires. Now, it's not going to make a huge difference pace-wise. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Alex, but it's not going to make a huge, massive difference between the two of them pace-wise. But it is going to have some sort of effect. And again, he has boost still to play with, whereas Peter Mann does not, and neither does Cesar Navarro.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you might be spot on there, Justin. I think, as I mentioned in a previous stream, that iGP tyres tend to last. The first 50% of the tyre wear tends to be a very, very similar pace. It's only after they become 50% worn that the pace starts to drop off. So I would imagine Peter Mann is still quite comfortably above that 50%, and I'd imagine will be all the way to the end, I'd imagine. So tyres aren't really going to come into it. They're both on the same tyres. They both should now, in theory at least, be on the same fuel level. So now this is going to be a straight fight for the lead. And Nicholas Carrasco, of course, let's not forget, has got an extra quarter of his boost left. So that will help. That will probably give him, hard for me to judge with the current level of the managers, but potentially up to a second, I'd say. Maybe a little bit much for the level of these managers. And Cesar Navarro just behind, again, should be, in theory, on the same fuel level, of course, the same tyre wear. Has also got no boost. This is now a straight fight to the end for first, second, and third positions.
Yeah, I don't see the likes of Fazzolari, Thomas, Presi, Saita. I don't see those guys getting involved with the top three. They've really separated themselves with a 3-second gap between Fazzolari and Navarro. Worth pointing out, I think, Fazzolari was very quick last time by. Oh, and actually, I've only just noticed, Simone Fazzolari actually has an entire bar of boost still remaining. So he could potentially be a threat. Daniel Thomas does not have very much boost. What is his gap to the leader at the moment? It is 7.7 seconds, and that is with just under 7 laps remaining in this race. So I don't see Daniel Thomas closing in, but Fazzolari with a, sorry, I'm going to do this one more time, 6.1 seconds. Now, that boost isn't enough to make up that difference. And he actually wasn't fastest. So now that we're seeing the kind of regular lap times come in from the top 4, you can see they're all in the mid-22s. So 22.48 for Carrasco, 22.8 for Peter Mann, 22.56 for Cesar Navarro, and a 22.65 for Fazzolari. So all very, very similar lap times. And I don't know if that boost bar is going to be enough to close up to the back of Cesar Navarro. Again, these are low-level accounts. Everybody started this season at level 1, which means the boost, the DRS, all of these things are less effective. If you're watching and you have your own league and you're level 13, 14 or higher or something like that, obviously your boost is more effective, your DRS is more effective, all of that kind of stuff. And I just don't think that boost bar is going to be enough for Fazzolari to close in. And even if he does close in, he's not going to get the benefit of DRS thanks to the treacherous conditions out there on the track today. So I think Fazzolari is more involved in the battle for third rather than needing to defend from Daniel Thomas. But not far off of those guys, there is a pretty tasty battle that is going on for what is essentially 5th position. Incerralde has used all of his boost. Cabanes only has a little bit. Saita has none. And Presi's got about 35-40%, I would say. So definitely a heated battle for 5th position, I think, is on the way here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just about to say that Nicholas Carrasco is checking out at the front. But then Peterman put in a pretty good lap time.
Oh
He's just gone about 4/10 quicker than Nicholas Carrasco. So this has just suddenly got very tasty. You made an excellent point there, though, Justin, about DRS. Of course, there is no DRS as it's raining. So catching is one thing, but overtaking is quite another. Even in IGP, there is the dirty air effect, and you need to be quite a bit quicker, really, to overtake without DRS. So it is going to be tricky, especially with no boost for Peterman. Of course, Nicholas Carrasco has got some boosts to defend, though. So I hate to speak so soon, but I do think Nicholas Carrasco might have the win in hand just purely because he's got more boost. Even if he loses some lap time, he's got enough boost to defend and stay ahead. Just a reminder of the championship as well. So don't forget, Nicholas Morales is leading the championship before this race, who's down in 15th position. He won't get any points today. Peterman is second in the championship. He's also second in this race. Nicholas Navarro is third in the championship, who is third in this race, and Nicholas Carrasco is fourth in the championship, who's leading this race. So this race is looking like we'll spice up the championship no end. And yeah, I think the key one for me now really is whether Cesar Navarro can catch Peterman. On that last lap, he was almost 4/10 quicker, and he's only 1.5 seconds back. So I think that's really where our race is to the end of this race, Justin. And as you mentioned, Simone Fazzolari has got his full boost, full complement boost still available, and he is now just 3 seconds back. So he could potentially feature towards the end of this race, and I think this will be a good indication of just how strong their boost is, despite them being quite a low level.
Yeah, exactly right. He is starting to make inroads. He had a personal best in Sector 1 on this lap. We are on lap 30 out of 33, so we are rather quickly approaching the end of this Spanish race. And it's not much has changed in the battle for 5th position. Daniel Thomas, I have to say, is looking more and more comfortable in that 5th place position. Pressy behind him does have more boost, but again, overtaking and catching are two completely different things, as Alex said. So, but the two Americans running in 6th and 7th, they had a really good battle, actually. I think it was in China. They've been really close together for a couple of races so far this season. The gap at the front is starting to swing the other way now, as actually Peter Mann was 3/10 slower last lap compared to Carrasco, and 1/10 slower compared to Navarro behind. So it's actually 1.2 seconds now is the gap between Peterman and Cesar Navarro. Navarro setting more green sectors in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Nicholas Coleman actually setting fastest lap of the race last time. He is now out of boost, so I have a feeling that was him using some boost, trying to catch up to this battle for 5th position. It really does seem that Franco Incerralde is much quicker compared to Felix Cabanes. He is just riding that pink car all through Sector 3, just hurrying him through. As Fazzolari now sets the fastest lap of the race, a 121.4. That's very interesting. It's now down to 2.4 seconds. This is the penultimate lap of the race. Fazzolari still has all of that boost bar, and he's within 2.5 seconds now of Navarro ahead.
Yeah, really great pace from him there. I'm amazed that he managed to do a purple fastest lap despite using no boost.
Yeah.
He's still got a full complement left. And just to give you a quick update on the in-game chat. So the managers are able to chat to each other via the in-game chat. And Chandler Stater there, I think that's how you say his name, in P7, has just asked, has just asked Nicholas Pressy to use some boost so that he's not in his dirty air. So it's worth an ask, I suppose, but I suspect that will be met with a solid no. But there we go.
Yeah, Chandler is completely out of boost at this point, and there goes Daniel Thomas as they start the final lap. The white flag is out. Daniel Thomas deploying the rest of his boost to try and defend from Nicholas Pressy, who is going to use the vast majority of his remaining boost on the run down towards Turn 1. The rest of it coming out of Turn 2 and into Turn 3, and I do believe that is pretty much all of the boost used for Nicholas Pressy. Meanwhile, Simone Fazzolari with the boost usage, he set a fastest lap last time at 120.99, purple first sector as well, and he has made the overtake on Cesar Navarro. He's still got boost to go as he closes up to the back of Peter Mann. He's still got some boost remaining, and he's done it. He's up into second position. Purple first sector, purple second sector. He's not going to be able to close in on Nicholas Carrasco. It is going to be a Spaniard who wins here in Spain for the 5th round of IGP Manager. Simone Fazzolari picks up a second podium to his name. Peter Mann is going to round out that podium. Cesar Navarro in 4th. Daniel Thomas is just about going to hold on to 5th position with Nicholas Pressy in 6th. Chandler Saita in 7th. Felix Cabanes in 8th. Incerralde in 9th. Felix and then Nicholas Coleman rounding out the top 10. Jose Luis Navarro, who again started the race on the wrong long tire compound, was actually only about 10 seconds away from getting some points. And as we mentioned before, Autosport, that's their best finish to date so far. So that is going to be the end of round 5. And of course, we are going to wait for the standings. We're going to take a quick peek at those if we can. I'll get the music back going so we can have just a little bit of background noise while we wait for those results to come up. But I have to say, Alex,
Justin, why you get I'll just jump in there while you get the results up. And yeah, amazing finish there. Simone Fazzolari jumping up to P2. That just shows the power of the boost. His fastest that was an 18.45, which was about 4 seconds quicker than Peter Mann, who he overtook on the final lap. So clearly there, the boost is a bit more powerful than I was expecting, despite their relatively low level. So really good job from him. And actually, interestingly, the top 2 were both on 2 stops. So that just to prove me wrong, looks like 2 stop was potentially the best strategy for this race. So maybe the tyre wear was a bit more extreme than I was expecting. But Peter Mann still doing a good job to bring it home. Another podium. He was second in the championship before this race. And so still a good job from him. But yeah, Nicholas Carrasco just class of the field today, 3.6 seconds ahead in the end.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. I have to say, there was a bit of a lull in the race at one point. You know, it seemed like it was because I had mentioned, you know, it seemed like the wet weather just spread out the field. But I think you called it perfectly at the time. You said that we were just seeing the differing strategies playing out. Some people on the 1 stop, some people on the 2 stop, and we had a wide range of pit laps. I mean, going from 9 all the way to, I think it was 18, or Nicholas Pressey went even, I think, to lap 20 for his first stop. So yeah, the fact that the pit stops were just so spread out, it was just so different from team to team as far as what they were doing and what their strategy was. And I think that really was what made the enormous difference. I have a feeling as soon as I get rid of the background and show the current standings, it's going to refresh the page, and I'm gonna look like an idiot. But I'm gonna go ahead and try it. Let's take a look at the standings, and it is Peter Mann. So your compatriot there, Alex, I'm sure you're happy about that. Peter Mann takes the lead of the championship, sitting on 70 points, but just 1 point between himself and Nicholas Morales. Just 1 point is the difference. A further 8 points down is now Nicholas Carrasco, who won his home race. I'm sure he's very happy about that. Cesar Navarro down in 4th position, only 10 points adrift of Peter Mann. Then it's a big 17-point gap down to Simone Fazzolari. But keep in mind, Simone Fazzolari did not score any points at all in Australia or Malaysia. He's only scored in 3 rounds, and he's got 43 points. So he's averaging almost 15 points per race if you ignore the first 2 races. It's kind of been the other end of the spectrum for Daniel Thomas. He had a great start to the season, kind of trailed off a little bit. He's still holding on to 6th position, just ahead of Kevin Gonzalez, who was our one-time championship leader, and Johan Dimier in 8th position, sitting on 27. Nicholas Pressey and Chandler Saita, I mentioned before, they can't be separated, and it turns out that continues as they've got 26 points each due to 2 Americans. Felix Cabanes, after a solid result today, in 11th position, sitting on 22. But I mean, even looking at Felix Cabanes, you know, he's only 10 points behind Kevin Gonzalez in 7th position. So aside from that bit of a gap between 4th and 5th in the championship standings, it is still very tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as I feel for Nicholas Morales there, I think he potentially wasn't even attending that race. There was something strange going on. He only pitted sprinters, never wet. So as much as I feel for him, it has tightened the championship up an absolute treat. As you say, just 1 point between 1st and 2nd places now, and only a further 8 points back to P3, and then a further 1 point back to P4. So really close amongst the top 4. At this point, absolutely any of them could win it. But I have to say that Nicholas Carrasco there, showing great pace in that race. And I don't want to draw too many conclusions from a single race, but I have to say that I was really impressed with him there. So I think he could have some great pace in the upcoming races. We will, of course, start to see some splitting up of the teams as the teams start to, or the managers rather, start to develop the cars and make them faster and faster and optimize them more and more. And
train the
and
drivers.
We'll see some differences. Yes, as a training drivers, of course, as well. Thank you, Justin. So we will potentially start to see some form between the different teams. So potentially that could be the first sign of that for Nicholas Carrasco. Again, don't want to draw too many conclusions just from a single race, but it will be interesting to see for the rest of the season whether that rings true or not.
Yeah, really excited about that one. We have a new championship leader in Peterman. We have a new race winner in Nicholas Carrasco as well too. And as you said, you know, really everything's been thrown into the air championship-wise, which is absolutely fantastic. Exactly what we want to see. So really looking forward to the next race, which is Monaco, which has a bit of, I don't know, some people love it in iGP Manager, some people absolutely hate it. You know, it's kind of one where, as you would imagine, it's all about qualifying. It's all about where you start in the race. It's so difficult to make overtakes, obviously, at Monaco. Probably going to be a one-stop strategy, I would assume, for most of the drivers out there. But yeah, we might even see another winner in Monaco, because again, it's all about one lap pace, getting that good qualifying, and then just having that lights to flag victory. So hopefully in Monaco we'll have another new winner, because that was a really good one. I really enjoyed that one. After it was like I said before, a bit of a tame start, but then it really spiced up towards the middle and end of that Spanish race. So really enjoyed that one. Thank you, Alex, for joining me, of course.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks again, Justin, for joining me as well. Let's put it that way. And yeah, I really enjoyed that race, as you said. That just sums up iGP for me, is that you get the various strategies, and even though it is just watching dots go around the screen, it is actually very interesting, just purely because of the strategy. So really interesting stuff. And as you said, looking forward to Monaco next time out. Yep,
that was a really good one. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much to Alex. I've been Justin, and we will see you next week for the race around Monaco, round 6 of AOR iGP.